Hello, I'm Anthony. Today we're going to take a pretty detailed look at one of the features in the MediaBay for Halion 7 and Cubase. It's the properties and or character tagging feature. Now the reason we're talking about this today has got nothing to do with the video that I originally intended to make, because Halion 7.1 came out recently and I was having a look at the changes since 7.0, and one of those enhancements is in the tagging editor. Let's show you an example of it. So this is a preset that I've just created. It's a very simple analog preset. And this subcategory here, experimental, was manually created by me. The new feature in 7.1 is this button called Add New Label. Basically, when you're choosing your subcategory, what you need to do is you need to type in, this is a bit clunky, you actually have to type in the category. So I'm going to type in synth comp. Then in the subcategory, let's call this a sequence. With those two fields populated, you click this new Add New Label button, and now we have a brand new subcategory item called Sequence. Now let's save that preset and open it in MediaBay. Here's the preset, and if we scroll across to subcategory, now you can see it's a synth comp sequence. Now initially I was pretty excited about this because I thought, finally we have user-definable subcategories in Cubase. Unfortunately, we don't. If you select your synth comp settings from inside Cubase, you don't see any of those user-defined categories or subcategories from Halion 7. So Halion 7 has a superior tagging system than you get in parent Cubase. This is very sad to me. As far as features in MediaBay is concerned, that's probably the one I would ask for more than anything else. User-definable tags would be absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, they only exist in the Halion 7 world. This is one of the ongoing issues with MediaBay. There are lots of different distributed MediaBays around the system, and they don't really talk the same language. This is a Halion enhancement, and even though it uses a generic database, and you can see that information from parent Cubase doesn't understand those special tags, so it can reproduce them. It can show you that this is a synth comp sequence, but it can't give you the option to choose it. This is incredibly frustrating. I wish the Cubase team would go and speak to the Halion 7 team and ask them what they're doing, because they need to implement this inside parent Cubase. It's not good enough for it to only exist inside Halion. Anyway, so as I was wandering around the tagging editor thinking, well, that's not really the subject of a video, a button called Add New Label is pretty much where it's at as far as the change to the tagging editor is concerned. It got me thinking that I don't use the filtering and search options inside MediaBay nearly enough. So I thought to myself, it's time I understood these tagging and filter options properly, because they never seem to do what I want them to do. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So I type the word acoustic in this search box, and there's a load of tags that have just appeared down below. I don't really have any idea what any of these tags are, but if you hover over them, Halion will tell you what they are. Clicking on this button here will show me every preset that contains the word acoustic in its name. Now it's pretty straightforward what just happened, except for one very important detail. The word acoustic has just disappeared out of my search text box. I have no idea why. Why have you taken away that word from my text box? I don't want it to disappear. I want it to be there. In fact, a little tip that I've discovered is a good kind of general principle if you're working in the Halion search engine. Copy your search text onto your clipboard so that if Halion takes it away from you, you can add it back. Let's get rid of this name filter and have a look at some of the other stuff that's going on. The first three buttons here are all filters where the headline attribute in the MediaBay contains that word. So this is the name acoustic, the word acoustic appearing in any attribute anywhere in the database, and we're going to get to have a really good look at that one a little bit later. And this one is specifically dedicated to the properties field. Again, we're going to go into a deep dive on exactly what the properties field is. Those three are special, and if you click any of those buttons, your text search will disappear. I've just realized actually in this particular case, acoustic, there are four main headline attributes, because the sub-style, acoustic blues, also contains the word acoustic. So applying the same principle, if it contains the word we're searching for, it's going to delete the search term. And sure enough, the search text has disappeared. Absolutely crazy. Let's get rid of all these filters. Every other button in this filter list doesn't make your search text disappear. So if I click ethnic, we've now applied that filter. Every one of these search results contains the category ethnic. Hover over the button and you can see the word category. But then we have the more general attribute still floating. The word acoustic appears somewhere in some of these presets. And this is what confused me and why, until I really studied what was going on here, it was very difficult to understand what these filters were doing. What's happened when I've clicked that ethnic button is that ethnic has become an AND criterion. In other words, the ethnic category must be present in order for it to appear in the results list. But acoustic is an anywhere command. So any attribute anywhere that contains this word is going to pull back my results. Let's throw the ethnic filter away. Take a slightly different approach this time. I'm going to right click on the guitar plucked category. And this gives me an option to specify the standard filter, which is what we've been doing so far. But I can instead choose an exclude or include filter. So this time I'll choose my include filter, which at the moment has basically had the same results. It's pulled back all of the guitar plucked categories. But now it's showing me some subcategories underneath that primary category. You can see here's acoustic guitar. So if I include that in my search results, what I've done there is I've created an OR search. So either of these criteria are resulting in the selection list. So as you can see, the subcategory isn't entirely acoustic guitar because the guitar plucked is still contributing its share of the load. If I delete that include search, if I delete the category, now the acoustic guitar subcategory is the only filter criterion, and so every search result is of subcategory acoustic guitar. So these right-click options are actually really powerful. The ability to have all searches is very cool. We can also exclude some search results, so you can see there are quite a few pop styles here. If I right-click on the pop style and I say exclude all of those, now we get all of the acoustic guitars with none of the pop hits. This is what I want out of a filter system. I just didn't know how to use it properly beforehand. Now I'm starting to understand how I'm supposed to use it. But do you remember these attribute headings that contain the word itself? So anything that contains the word acoustic, they don't work properly. So here's the acoustic name. If I want to include that in my filters, so you can see we have, is there just the one? There's a single preset here with the word acoustic in its name. If I right click on the name and say exclude, this 12-string acoustic should disappear. It didn't. Not only did it not disappear, it's also deleted my search text for me. So that was a complete fail. There's something wrong with these top level filter settings, the one that contain your search text themselves. There's some bug in there, it's not working properly. So let's get rid of that one. And we're back to a working filter again. If you abandon all of your other filters and you just use the acoustic name filter, fine, you know, that works absolutely fine, but it pretty much only works under those circumstances. Okay, so I was feeling pretty good at this point. Felt like I was starting to get to grips with the filter system. Then I had a look at this configurable attribute row here. Category and style, no problem, completely understand those. And then it got to properties and I thought, you know what? My understanding of this properties attribute is hazy at best. Let's figure out what's really going on here. Oh, by the way, if you can't see properties, I can't remember exactly how Halion is properly configured. Your little settings cog will give you these selectable options. So we want to get properties up and running so that we can figure out exactly what it's doing. The first thing that I want you to do is pull the properties window down. Let's have a look at this pick list. This is just not good enough. This is not what I want a filter list to look like. It's basically a single selectable list with no context or real kind of intelligence behind it. It's literally just a list of every property that any preset in Halion contains these words. Now, because it's possible to manually create properties yourself, we also get spelling mistakes. So here is a property called BIRGHT, which is clearly supposed to be the word bright. But this preset here, if I load it, you can see it's got the property burged. What we really want to talk about today, though, is exactly what is a property, because there's another attribute type in Cubase that's very closely related to it, and it's called character. And I uncovered this particular ant's nest by typing the word cold. This is where my investigation began. The reason I chose cold simply is because it's a word that's in plenty of preset names, is a property, is an attribute property itself, so it appears all over the place in different contexts. It's a good test word. I'm going to pick on this preset called Airfall Voices. I've already used a few tests while I was kind of preparing for this video. Hopefully this will work fairly smoothly. Have a look at the properties field. It's completely empty. The filter that I'm going to apply to this preset list, there's 378 items in this list at the moment. I'm going to say exclude all of the presets that have a cold property. And of course, it's deleted my search text. Let's put it back again. So there are very few left. These are actually my three of these are my test harnesses in preparation for today. A sixth one is going to appear as a result of this test. So we've got 5 presets that don't contain the word cold anywhere in their properties field. But if you remember, when we go back and have a look at our Airfall Voices, its property field is blank. So what gives? Why is that being excluded from the search? Well, the answer is the character field. We go up to MediaBay, Airfall Voices, here we are. Here's the blank properties field, but we also have this field called character, and there is the word cold. There's an invisible link between character and properties in Cubase. You can't see it, it doesn't appear to be there, but it absolutely is. I'm going to show you in a minute. So the deal with character is that they're all, as you can see, they're binary flags, long or short, slow attack or fast attack, long release, short release. They're also heavily curated. You can't add items to this list. Cubase give you them because they've got this kind of convoluted radio button selection option. So that's a very heavily controlled set of attributes. The properties list, on the other hand, is completely flat. You know, you can select any item, and in theory, you can have multiple properties. Ironically, from Cubase's perspective, it's very difficult to do so. If I choose any property in this list, you can only actually add one property at a time from here. I'm not going to do it just now because I'll pollute the test if I do. So here we are with a populated set of characters, including the word cold, and no properties. When we have a look at that instrument in Halion, even though the properties are blank, when I exclude any presets, Airfall Voices is disappearing. That's because Cubase is interpreting the character field as the property field. It's saying if the properties field is null, and that's a really important database distinction, null means absolutely not there, a complete absence of a field on the database. If the properties field is null, use the character field instead. And so Airfall Voices is being discarded. Okay, here we go. Back into MediaBay. Here's my Airfall Voices preset. I'm going to go into the properties field. I'm going to choose any property. It really doesn't matter which one. Chose animated. Close MediaBay down. I'm going to load this preset into Halion. Here's my animated property. I'm going to click in my properties field, delete that attribute again, and it's gone. So I'm back to where I started, aren't I? I added this random property, deleted it again. Let's exclude all presets with the word cold in their properties. And re-add my text search again. Oh dear, Airfall Voices has now appeared in this excluded list. So what's going on here is that if you add a property in Cubase or Halion, really doesn't matter where you do it, and then delete that property, it's not returning the field to a null state, it's sending it to a blank state. Blank and null are not the same. I can't open the database at the same time as having Cubase running, but I took a screenshot. So I actually opened the MediaBay database in the database editor. And this was one of my previous examples, but it's exactly illustrative of the same point. In this case, I was editing the Ocean Times field, and you can see, if you compare these two values, these both started out with having the word null in their properties field, After I'd created a property and deleted it from the Ocean Times preset, it's no longer null. It's blank. Blank is a valid field of length 0. It's not the same as null, and Cubase is interpreting them differently. So here we can see an absolute correlation between character and properties, badly implemented, because if you add a thing and delete it again, you should return to the state that you were in the first place. We don't. We've permanently left behind the null state, and this properties field can never again be null. Earth All Voices is condemned forever to be in a non-null state, and there's nothing I can do about it from the application perspective. I'd have to go into the database behind the scenes and explicitly set that field to null if I wanted to truly return it to its original state. Why is this useful to you? Because otherwise you're going to see random results that confuse the hell out of you, because this stuff doesn't make any sense. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm showing you an equivalence between the properties and characters field. Cubase behind the scenes is interpreting them in certain circumstances as the same field. If it sees a null properties field, it's taking its data from the character attributes and it's saying this'll do. Does the word cold appear in either of these fields? But once I edit the properties field, I lose the ability to do that. And now, as you can see, my results have been corrupted. So which one are you supposed to use, properties or character? You could set up your results column in Halion and add the character field. And if we have a look at them side by side, you can see just how random the treatment of these two fields is. Sometimes properties is blank and character is populated. Sometimes character is blank or null, whichever it might be, and properties is populated. Sometimes both of them are populated. Sometimes they're both populated with different values. And you can't actually copy everything from one to another either. I considered doing a mass database update, but in the case of properties, this field is called polyphonic, and in the character world, it's called poly. So I don't even get the luxury of doing a mass update from one preset to another. We just have to accept that this is the way that it is. There's no happy ending, sadly. I'm just presenting the information to you. You need to figure out a way to manage the very uncomfortable relationship between properties and character. The Halion development team have clearly tried to do some of this heavy lifting for you to say, well, if the properties field is null, take the information from the character field instead. But it's a very unsatisfactory solution. And until Steinberg have a look at these two fields and fix them, this is clearly an evolutionary problem at some point in the past. Cubase has used these two different fields for different purposes, and now it's just a horrible spaghetti mess. What they really need to do is generate a proper relational structure. So instead of having this plain text, pipe delimited nonsense in these fields, these two columns should not exist in this table at all. There should be a thing called a link table, which points in a one-to-many relational manner off to a dedicated table called properties that contains a pick list of all of these different names, and then your preset can link into your pick list via its link table, and everything is absolutely perfectly maintained. You have proper referential integrity. You don't have this nonsense of spelling mistakes, of developers just accidentally typing berged instead of bright. You don't have the possibility to do those things because your pick list, your properties table, is carefully curated. And that's not the case here. We've got plain text, two columns doing almost exactly the same thing, but not quite, and very confused users not knowing how to use this stuff. So should you use this properties attribute? I suppose we've not got much choice. We don't actually have the option, interestingly, from the Halion perspective, we don't have the option to add character in this pick list. So we have to drive from properties. That means that when we're in Cubase and we're trying to edit these fields in MediaBay, we have this horror. This is non-functional. This is not a usable configuration option at all. So as far as Cubase is concerned, properties don't work. As far as Halion's concerned, character is meaningless, and you need to find a way to resolve the relationship between those two perspectives. None of this is fun. So what started out as a very trivial investigation into the add new label function turned into a right old spaghetti mess. Am I in a better position now than I was when I started? Absolutely yes, because I do understand how these filters work now. I know to pretty much leave alone anything that contains the text search that I used, because I'm going to lose my text search if I use any of those functions. But it is what it is, I suppose. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit like if you did. Patreon and YouTube channel member links below for anyone who'd like to support my channel. I'll see you next time. Thanks very much.